much, honorable members. Let me take this opportunity to welcome everyone who is present in the meeting. This meeting is very important as we are running behind as the social development because we did not get a slot in August so that we can look at the first quarter report. All other portfolio committees and other departments have actually approved their first quarter report. So the main issue in the meeting is the first quarter report, but we are also going to deal with with other reports like the flood victims, as well as the bill, because we've got a bill, the children's amendment bill that is before us. So we hope that the department has joined us. Why there's an echo? Okay, I think it was HOD. I think everyone is here from the side of the department. I can see HOD, Dr. Kaba, as well as Mr. Mgomezulu. I don't know who is Nokbonga Koza.
Yes, morning, Chair. I'm the HOM for Department of Social Development.
Oh, Nokbonga, thank you so much, Nokbonga. If we can see your face, because we've got a new HOM in this department. Fisane is no longer the HOM for social development. So we've got a new HOM, Nokbonga. Nokbonga, if it's possible, can you show your face? Nokbonga? Nokbonga sicela ukukubona. Nanko ke uNokbonga ke uyena ke she's the new HOM for the department. I was told that Miss Fisane has moved into the main department, and Nokbonga is now the new HOM of the department. We wanted to see your face, Nokbonga, so that we can we know that we know you, and you can also share your numbers with the members so that we contact you, because you are a very strategic person in the office of the MEC. Thank you so much. Your mic is not on, Nokbonga.
Oh, apologies, Chair. I was saying thank you so much. I will do so. I will share my contact. Gabong.
Thank you. Members, because I can see that we do have a quorum, we can continue with our meeting. But before we continue with our meeting, in this main meeting, because we did not pray when we're doing the briefings, can we have Honorable Majola to open with a short prayer? Honorable Majola. Honorable Majola, can you hear me? It seems as if I cannot get hold of Honorable Majola. Can we have Honorable Lucy Wengubane to open with a short prayer?
Ngicela sibana amehlo. Baba ongcwele njengoyise Nkosi yethu Jesu Kristu siyabonga
nasekuseni ukuthi ube nathi. Sicela usicele Nkosi sami sangena lo mhlangano. Ube wena ozoqhuba lo mhlangano wokuhlakanipha kwethu ngesikwazi ukwenza lutho. Sithembele kuwena wedwa njengoNkulunkulu wethu ngelihle igama lomfana uJesu Kristu. Amen.
Thank you, Honorable Ngubane. It was a nice and short prayer, and you have made us to be powerful, even us who are not well. As we go to the apologies, I received an apology from the MEC. The MEC has written, there's a written apology that she has sent to the department. I don't know what is happening with the Department of Social Development. Everyone is ill. The MEC was hospitalized, and but now she's out of the hospital. But she's off sick, and as a result, she cannot be in the meeting. I also wanted to report that Nomangwe is recovering. She's also out of the hospital. But she is still not well. So Tembelani is the one who is the acting coordinator of the portfolio committee. Are there any other apologies, honorable members?
Honorable Matacane, Chair, I'll request to be excused at 12 o'clock. I have other work commitments.
Thank you, Honorable Mbathatsele. We know that you are busy as the chairperson of Quality of Life. Since you are preparing for the Senior Citizens Parliament, we thank you that you have joined, because we know that you have got a lot of meetings today. Nokthula Mshengu, are there any other apologies?
Thank you, Chair. I've got an apology for Honorable Dlamini.
Honorable Dlamini is still off sick. She was hospitalized, honorable members, but she's also recovering. She was undergoing an operation. We know that she's off sick. We accept her apology. Honorable Thako Rajpats. Honorable Thako Rajpatsi, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, I'm attending an oversight visit with Finance Committee, and so at about 12:30, be on that oversight in Potchefstroom. So I'll have to leave the meeting by then, but currently I'm attending it virtually.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Rajpatsi. We are going to try to be fast in a meeting, because the main thing that I want us to do is the first quarter report. I see other things. If we can just look at the first quarter report and give members ample time to make for discussions, and then approve that report. That is the main important one in this meeting. Can we just move, honorable members, seeing that we do constitute, and the agenda before us, we are having remarks by the MEC, of which that item we are going to remove it because the MEC is not here. She has apologized, and then we'll have the minutes, the set of minutes of the 21st of June 2022, and matters arising. One of the matters arising that we have identified is the update report on the flood victims. And then we go to departmental reports, where we get the first quarter report, the financials and the non-financials, and then the expenditure to date, and then it will be discussions. After that, we adopt the first quarter report. In fact, we have got to adopt the first quarter report after we have done with it. and then we move to expenditure to date, and then discussions, as well as responses to the disability parliament resolutions for 2021. And then on agenda item number 8, Daphne is going to take us through the Children's Amendment Bill. She will try to give us a presentation clause by clause, just a short presentation, so that we are aware what is going on in this in the children's bill. Are there any changes? Because if we look at clause by clause, it is going to empower us as we are preparing to go to the public hearings. And then we also need to outline the public hearings. How are we going to which form are we going to take? I know that we are going to discuss about that when we deal with the bill, about any changes of the public hearings. Can we adopt can we adopt the agenda, honourable members?
I move, Chair, that you adopt the agenda.
I second, Chair.
Okay. The agenda is adopted. Can we skip agenda item number 4 and then go to agenda item number 5, minutes of the previous minutes? Can you flag the minutes? Are there any corrections on page 1? Page 2? Page 3? Page 4? And page 5? Then closure. Honourable Charmaine?
Yeah, just spelling error of program on page 4, Honorable Chair.
Page 4?
Spelling error of program.
Of all, spelling error on program on page 4. Yes. Is it is program 4 or program 5?
Oh, it just said the program is spelled wrong.
Oh,
Page
okay.
4.
Okay, can you correct that, Tembelan? The spelling of program. Members, can we adopt the minutes?
Yes, Honorable Chair, I propose to adopt the minutes.
Honorable Charmaine is moving for the adoption of the minutes. Any seconder?
Honourable Dembe seconds, Chair.
Honorable Dembe seconds the adoption of the minute. Members, on the we have got the report on the flood victims. Can we get that report by the department? Over to you, Eshoti.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members. Greetings to you, and thank you for the opportunity for the department to present the progress report on the floods. We will be presenting, we'll try to summarize the report, and it doesn't have everything because it's been it's been work in progress in terms of what is happening. This is the outline. We'll look into the purpose, background, update on the existing shelters, update on the coordination of the support to flood victims, on psychosocial support, and also plans for reintegration and reunification of families to the community, as well as the challenges that we have as far as the issue of the flood victims are concerned, especially those that are in shelters. In the left slide, the flood victims are concerned, especially the slide that look into the, I'm not sure the secretary, the person who is managing the slideshow there. I mean, now slide 4 on the background. The background is indicating where the journey, where we come from, in terms of the shelters. For example,
Can we move the slide? Anyone who's managing these slides, the presentation, who's flicking the presentation? Yeah. Okay, yes.
Yeah, we are on that one. That is slide 4. When we started, that was in April when the incident of the disasters happened in the province. And then there were the occupants were 8,400. That is the people who were occupying the shelters. The shelters are not the shelters that were planned by any government department or entity that these would be the shelters for those that are displaced because of floods. But you find that when floods happened, the communities, they will go to the next available community facility, be it a church, be it a hall, and so on. That's why then you find that the shelters are not the same, because depending on what is available out there. But in August 2022, the occupants were 5,281. And then we also share with you the total number of the shelters that we have now in the province. When you go to the next slide, it also gives this background to say currently the people that are in the shelters as of the 19th of September, 4,711 people. I must indicate that there is a lot of work that the Department of Human Settlement has done to actually ensure that they make houses or temporary residential units available for the people in the shelters. And then in terms of slide 6, the update, we have shelters across the province, but in the main, in eThekwini, we have eThekwini North and eThekwini South. Overall, the shelters, there are 69 in all. And then there are issues that when shelters were established that we agreed upon that those will be non-negotiable issues, like that a shelter must have ablution facilities, it must have water, it must have a space where they will be able to prepare their food and so on. So currently within eThekwini North and South, there are 69 shelters available. And then, with the number of occupants that include the gender and so on. So you can see when towards the other row, I mean the other columns towards the end, we came up with a disaggregated data to say that within a family, how many males, how many females, how many children, and so on, and persons with disabilities. Then within Ilembe, there are 11 shelters that we have now, and then Umgungundlovu, there's one shelter, which is at Truro, and then Uku district had shelters, but currently, as we speak, all the shelters were closed down because people were able to return to their families and they were supported accordingly. When you look into slides 7, in terms of the coordination of the support to flood victims, what we did as the Department of Social Development, the Cabinet or Provincial Executive Council gave the responsibility to social development to actually coordinate the organizations that are providing humanitarian support to the victims of flood. So we then came up with 57 NPOs or organizations that were able to actually identify. Then we started a sort of a forum, but an engagement with them. And then also trying to understand who brings what, when, and so on. Some you will find that it's a once-off support that they give to the people and so on. I know that at some point we had other organizations like Save the Children that also provided emergency response to ensure protection of children and families, and they will also give food vouchers to the families. And then also we were then able to actually reconcile the records with the organizations that we've worked with, and we've had several meetings with them. And then also we can also indicate that as we were coordinating that, we also had a responsibility as the Department of Social Development to actually provide psychosocial services to these victims of floods. So we deployed social workers in all the shelters for them to provide psychosocial support services, which includes welfare-related matters as well as child protection. I must indicate, honorable members, that we tried our best as social development to actually request the parents to give us children so that we put them in places of safety, so that we eliminate whatever risk that they can be subjected to. But they have all refused to give us their children, because I'm not sure whether maybe the understanding was that if we take the children away from them, maybe they will not get the support that they are getting. But we tried to do that. But what we have done also beyond that is to ensure that the children that are in the shelters, they attend schools, and also the fact that the nearby schools also admit the children in cases where the shelter that was available is a little bit far from where the family lives. And then we also, I think what is important also, when this started in terms of the support that was provided, SASSA was able, in fact, to actually provide even cooked meals for those families that were in the shelters. I must indicate that at some point, honorable members, we had challenges in terms of where we had to open some cases in instances where we felt that there were some risks that were identified. And then in the next slide, I can also indicate that well, in terms of the psychosocial support, we also ensured that the children, even those with these disabilities, are also supported accordingly. And then as part of a psychosocial support, we can indicate that a total number of 23,485 individuals were supported through trauma debriefing counseling services, bereavement services, as well as burial support, because there is another support that was also coordinated by the Office of the Premier in terms of the burial support, but we would work with them in terms of ensuring that there is a support that is given to the families. And then also the supervision and coaching of the social service profession, so practitioners who are working in the space, and also linking with other departments like Home Affairs in order to ensure that the victims of the floods were able to also get the documents that were damaged by the floods, and ensuring that they are able finally to be reintegrated into the communities. I must indicate the last paragraph on this slide, the Department of Social Development at a national level in partnership with UNICEF provided support to the department, to the province. In fact, after the incident of floods took place, the UN agencies visited the province, and then they met the premier and also relevant departments, and they pledged their support in terms of what happened in KwaZulu-Natal. So it was out of that UNICEF also partnered with the department, and then they provided support to actually do a real-time monitoring survey, focusing on assessing the needs of the children during the floods, the youth, and so on. So at that point, they assisted us, honorable members, because they were able to actually appoint 56 unemployed social workers to be part of that survey that they were doing in the province, of which we appreciated that very much. In the next slide, I think here we're trying to also highlight the total number of social service practitioners that provided support to the victims of flood. 499 in them, and then out of that we had to also identify supervisors to work on this program, as well as MENCO members of the department, senior managers that were given a responsibility to actually do monitoring in all the sites that are there. I must indicate that these 499 social workers, we had to ensure that they are supervisors, because the work of the social worker justified that there must be a person who supervises the work that they are doing. So hence this, and this also had a financial implication, considering that we also got the support of social workers from less affected districts who had to come and support eThekwini and Ilembe and so on. We must also indicate that when that happened, also in terms of the reunification and reintegration of the families to the communities on the side, whilst the Department of Human Settlement was also identifying the areas where they can be located in terms of the building of the temporary residential units. We would also support those families accordingly. And then also, I must indicate that, honorable members, we are also providing social relief of distress to those families that are in the shelters, so that they are able to actually cook food for themselves. I must indicate that there are challenges and that we have experienced. It was something that was huge and for us as the province. For example, one of the challenges, honorable members, is uncertainty with the length of stay of the people in the shelters, and also the issue of stealing food and groceries. You see, because they are in the shelters, they don't know when they're gonna leave the shelters. So that is also a challenge for us. But we are saying the turnaround plan is the issue of speeding up the integrated approach by the relevant departments, like Department of Human Settlement. In other areas, Department of Human Settlement indicated the challenge in terms of actually finding land where they can be able to construct these temporary residential units. But there is progress on the other side, because they are even considering in terms of the available buildings that can be sourced, so that these people can move from the shelters to those structures. And also, well, the issue of stealing of food, you see in the shelters, you find that there are people from different backgrounds. Are people that were staying in the area, maybe not even greeting each other, and then they find themselves in this hall, men, women, and children, and they had to learn to coexist. It's not a good sight at all, but that was the best that was afforded at that point. And then another challenge is that the shelters, they pose a threat for increasing GBV, teenage pregnancy, rape, transmission of COVID-19 and other social ills. We're looking at that that is a threat. Although we haven't experienced teenage pregnancy so far, but it's a challenge for us if those people, they live in the same place and you look into issues of COVID-19 and so on. And then also we are saying the different approach in terms of placing people in shelters must be also considered so that it is more in a humane way. I think this is what the Department of Human Settlement is doing to assist us. And then with regard to the demand for continuum of care and reintegration services require implementation of family reconfiguration therapy and mental support. That is critical, because even after people are out of the shelters, they are in their own private spaces. Social development will still be needed to ensure that the family is supported accordingly in terms of psychosocial support, and also how they are able to move forward with their lives post the disaster era. And also what is important, honorable members, is the fact that even those who did not move from their homes to the shelters, but who tried to survive with the neighbors in the communities, the social development had to also still reach out to those people and provide the psychosocial support and provide also food to those households. I must indicate that currently, honorable members, as from yesterday and today, there is a beautiful colloquium that is coordinated by universities in the province, is UKZN and University of Zululand. They are looking at social work during the climate change period. So yesterday, the presentations that they were making also, even our own social workers, they wrote some articles that they were presenting yesterday to say how this posed the challenge to us. You find that the issue of confidentiality is compromised because you have to see this client, but there's no privacy in terms of ensuring that she gets the attention that she deserves in terms of the principles of the social work profession. So there was quite a lot that was shared, and even best practice from other countries. They spoke of something like green social work, that one was saying we need to read more about that, so that in future, how do we respond as social development through our social workers in terms of people who are victims of floods. But we have worked as in an integrated way within the department that include our even community development practitioners that were able to actually do profiling even in those households and even in the communities. We have tried, honorable members, to summarize this because it's work in progress starting from April when this incident happened, and we are still there, and we strongly believe that step by step we'll be able to actually see people exiting the shelters, because that's where our pain is, when people live in that environment, and people who are strangers but in one environment. Some are clean, some are not, but they have to ensure that life continues and so on. I think, honorable members, we want to recommend that you note the progress that has been made so far as the victims of floods are concerned. Unless if there are further questions, we'll be able to address those accordingly. We did not cover the issue of even other provinces donating food to the province, and even other countries as well. I remember Mozambique came, as well as the neighboring countries and so on. So may you please allow me to stop here. Thank you very much, honorable members, honorable chair and colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eshodi, and thank you for the presentation on the flood victims. Eshodi, you are saying that now in September 2022, there are still people who are at the shelters. We just want to know what is the progress with regards to the assisting those people who are still in the shelters, because other things that we have heard about these shelters, now we are having people who were not impacted by floods who are moving into the shelters. They go and stay there because they want houses to be built for them. So how long are these people who are still at the shelters going to stay at the shelters? And is there any assistance that they are getting from the departments? Honorable members, you can ask questions.
Chair, Honorable Tembe.
Honorable Tembe, Honorable Charmaine.
Honorable Gwanyana.
And Honorable Kwanyana, yes.
And Honorable Governor.
And Honorable Governor. Honorable Tembe.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say thank you to the department for the report. I think it was well overdue for us to be appraised of that report. I asked humbly, Chair, if we could have it in every meeting going forward until the situation is resolved. Chair, on the ground, I know that the social workers have been doing an incredible job. And thank you to the social workers who've been working tirelessly with their efforts with the flood victims. But if you do go to the ground, that ongoing support is starting to dwindle a bit. So social workers aren't going there as often as they used to. Maybe, I'm not sure what that reason would be. If we could find out if the social workers are still doing almost daily or weekly visits, or that is dwindled, and if has dwindled, why? The food security in the halls is a serious concern. I know, you can't feed people indefinitely, and NGOs and NPOs are already struggling themselves due to other reasons. So what will be the plan going forward about the food security if and when no NGOs or no NPOs can continue to provide the support that they have been providing? And just how many TRUs have been built so far for the people living in the halls? Are we keeping a tabulation in conjunction with human settlements on that regard? And how much pressure social development as a unit putting pressure onto human settlements about how fast people can start moving into their homes? Because obviously the dignity of the people living in the floods is a real concern. Also the idea that, the department had, even though they were trying to separate children from their parents, was really a bad idea. We know that, psychologically in times of trauma, a child has to stick with their parent and their routine so that they can have some sort of normalcy. So that was a bad idea, even though they was trying to help. But I mean, that was putting salt into a wound, if I should say. It's also written that there were people helped to get into old age homes at that time. Could we get an approximate number of the people that were assisted to get into the old age homes from the halls? Because on the ground, I see there's still a lot of elderly who are in the halls. I mean, what sort of assistance, how many have they gone, in the space of where the floods were? Is the department meeting also with councillors who are dealing with this on a regular basis? Or is there meetings of how the two can, assist each other? I know that there's a councillor actually who worked with an NGO, and they got tents for families within the hall, which was a great idea. I mean, it deals with a lot of the privacy issues, and to have some sort of sense of, there's my tent, I feel like that's my privacy, that's my home, to separate from people, to get some space. I think that's a good thing to try and implement throughout all the halls, in trying to get sort of mini tents inside. I know not all halls are massive, but some halls are still housing about 400 people inside. And another thing is, as much as there are ablution facilities, there's not really bathing facilities. I mean, when I say to shower or gas and stuff like that, some people are bathing inside in those ablution facilities. So in toilets, males are bathing in areas. So is there any way of portable showers or stuff like that to be sent? I mean, if we're saying there's no timeline for people to move, we at least supposed to be helping them have some sort of dignity in how they are living. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done with the people in the halls. They can't be left forgotten, especially by social development. And I'm hoping at some time that this committee will be able to give you and do oversights on the living conditions of the people in the hall throughout the places that have been affected. Thank you.
Honorable Charmaine?
Honorable Chair, my question is that the number that was given for each Equine was about 5,500. The number for the whole of September, the total number was 4,000 and something. So, and these are on two different slides. So I'm wondering, how are these numbers? These numbers don't seem to match. Because we can see in other districts, there are low numbers. They're very small numbers. But the eThekwini one, it's about 5,500 on the slide for eThekwini. But on the slide where there's overall for individual months, it's 4,000 something. So these numbers are not seeming to match. The other issue is there's a slide on the interns that are doing the survey. They say the survey is for 12 months. It started in May 2022. So, and that's for the psychosocial wellness, I think, the monitoring survey. So, are we then expecting a report in May of 2023 on it? Because if that's the period, then it means that the department is essentially telling us that they are going to have to bear this responsibility for another year, till May. So we would be looking at a bit of more of a long-term care of the flood victims. The last thing is on a progress report. I agree with the other honourable member that we need to have regular reporting. But I think that when we have progress reporting, the slide says challenges and then turnaround. So for this report, that's okay. The challenges and the turnaround is more of a broad strategy. But I think on the outgoing reports, the monthly reports, it'll have to be the same challenges. And then you have to have now more decisive, a column for interventions and then a column for progress. So that then starts filling up the column and we can track exactly what are whether the interventions are right or they are wrong, like the one about separating children from their families, because we need to know what are the decisive interventions and how to fast track it. But I must say that even today there's a full council meeting in eThekwini, and I know on the agenda is the TRUs and it is decisions being taken by the council to house the flood victims in transit camps as well as in other buildings that they've identified in eThekwini. So I think if we have a report, a regular report with the different columns, we will be able to fast track both at local government level as well as social development, how people are being integrated or taken care of. And then because it has an impact on our budget and the capacity we have within our department. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you. Can we move on to Honorable Escavenda?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to the HOD for the presentation. Chair, the issues regarding the people that are living in shelters, the living conditions and so on have been covered. I'm not going to go there, but I'm just looking at slide 10 with regard to, firstly, the issue of foreign nationals that are living in Truro Hall in Pietermaritzburg. Now, I see that there are 11 foreign nationals that are still housed there and they are yet to be removed. Could we have a sense of what arrangements are being made with maybe Department of Home Affairs to have these people removed from there? Because I don't think it is very healthy for the people, the South African citizens, to be living there and then find that there are foreign nationals that are there and they are not being removed. The other issue is with regard to the next point on that, at least the last point on that same slide, where it says that 56 social workers were contracted on short-term basis for real-time monitoring survey. Chair, keeping in mind that the department is constantly saying to us that there's no funding to replace staff who have resigned or who have passed on or who have left the service for some other reason. So you're not filling those posts. So where is the funding coming from to pay these 56 social workers? Secondly, how long is short term? We need to know for how long will these 56 social workers be contracted? Because remember that we are not even filling the posts of CCGs that are leaving the service. So why are we now contracting people on short term? And we need to know what is that short term. Then, Chair, the last slide, no, the second last slide, the point number 3, where the turnaround plan is to increase social service practitioners to attend to the issue of the challenges that they are being faced there. Then again, I will say, at least I will ask, how is the department planning to increase social service practitioners in the workforce when they are saying to us on the other hand that they do not have the funding to replace experienced social workers who have left the service as well as the CCGs? So maybe if the HOD can tell us how they plan to increase social service practitioners. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Escavenda. Honorable Nkwanyana, your hand was up.
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair, to give me this opportunity. Greetings to you and all the members, my colleagues here in this meeting. Chairperson, I just want to know with some other things that the HOD has been mentioned, but I also want to thank the presentation that was given to us by the HOD. HOD was talking about the taking away of children from their families. I want to know why do they decided to do that? Because if that their decision, what makes them to decide like that? Because I know that families must be together all the time. Secondly, I just want to know about the social workers, that social workers, are they enough to all the shelters that people are still staying there? Because I think they should be visited almost every day by the social workers. And how many private donors do we have for donating into this department? What kind of donation? Is it money or food? If it's the money, where is the money going to? Is there any account for that issue for the private donors to donate? And I just also want to know about the Department of Health. How often does Department of Health visit the shelters, since we're talking about risk of infection and health hazards? And other thing also, Chairperson, I don't know whether I'm right, because HOD has been talking about the Home Affairs. that they are still doing their work. Are they progressing very well about that work they are doing? Because sometimes you find people still not having their belongings. They have been taken away by the floods. They are still crying about that, but still there is that Department of Home Affairs that was allocated to help these people. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, honorable members, for the questions.
Honorable Chair.
Who is that?
Ngubane.
Honorable Ngubane. Okay, Honorable Ngubane, you can get in.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. Mhlawumbe sibonge presentation from HOD. Iyacacisa futhi iya-outline everything that is happening kulama floods adewenza. But mina mine abahlonishwa sebengikhavile kokuningi kulapha ku slide 6 lapha yana ku update existing shelters eThekwini. Bengifisa ukuchecka mina because emlandweni siyazi ukuthi uma kukhona something mhlawumbe kuzoba khona usizo ugovernment azoliprovide. Mina ngihlala emakhaya odadewethu bahlala eThekwini sekuvela that opportunity ukuthi ngabe khona ama shelters okwenzeka. Banayo in database before ama floods ukuthi abantu ababe affected babe bangaki. Njengoba ngibona inamba yakhuphuka unalokhu yehle. Ayikho yini umkhoshosho or corruption eyenzekile ukuthi kulanda omunye umuntu emakhaya lokhu kukhuphuka isibalo ugovernment lokho replace umgodi ongacwali. Ngifuna ukuchecka ukuthi isibalo benaso before bebangaka abantu ade be affectekile. Bese okunye futhi ngifisa ukwazi ukuthi inamba ya ama beneficiaries sesiwabonile eShowday ushilo ukuthi is 4,711 ukuthi ngempela banaso nesiqiniseko sokuthi lawo ma beneficiaries abeneficiayo SRD. Ngiyabonga Sihlalo.
Thank you, Honorable Ngubane. And thank you, HOD, for the presentation. Can you now respond to honorable members? HOD, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members. We must thank the questions and the comments by the honorable members. Maybe from the department side, Honorable Chair, we welcome a proposal that each time we meet the committee, we provide you with a progress report, because we are reporting today and we've been working on this matter for months now. And you find that as we present, maybe we leave other things that would have been very important to actually cover. We tried to summarize in terms of how we prepared ourselves for this meeting. So we appreciate that proposal, honorable members, so that we keep you posted in terms of our intervention as the Department of Social Development. So which then says that some of the information that we may not have now, we may provide that to the honorable members say in the next week or maybe in the next meeting, because it's the information that is available. Honorable members, may I then also propose that we share with you a presentation on donations, because on donations there is quite a number of donors that approached the province. Some would approach the province through the Department of Social Development. If I can make an example, the Honorable Minister for the Department of Social Development, Minister Zulu, also came with the donors. One of them was a donor from the church. It's a church that was saying we will be able to provide a number of food parcels, but we would then want you to show where the people are so that we go there and provide food. So I'm making that example, but we do have a register where we have documented all the donations that we have received. We also have Old Mutual Foundation that also donated food parcels to Ilembe it was Ilembe, Indwedwe, and also that other area next to close to Stenger. So, which then says one may not be accurate now, having not prepared that information, but a confirmation is there are donations that were received by the province, and that has been documented, and we also report to the Provincial Executive Council on the donations that we received and how far are we. I'm responding to Honorable Nkwanyana as well and other members that had an interest on this. We also, the Provincial Treasury provided the province's bank account for those that wanted to donate cash. So the Provincial Treasury, they will then indicate where they will then allocate those funds, because as the Department of Social Development, we have not yet been allocated funds from that donation that we received. But some donations were donations in kind, some churches and so on and so on. But I am requesting Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members, that in our next meeting we also indicate we have a presentation on the donations, and where, as I indicated, that we were requested to actually coordinate the NPOs working in this space. So we do have a report that indicates that NPOX provides this, because some it's a once-off, some they will provide breakfast, but they won't afford lunch and dinner. So then we need to come in there and so on. And thank you very much for that. With regard to the database of the victims of floods, as per the question by Honorable Ngubane, we must confirm that the numbers, they fluctuate. One of the honorable members was asking if you do not maybe find a situation where people come in because there are resources. Yes, we found that some shelters themselves would say the number is more, those people were not part of us, and there will be those misunderstanding amongst themselves. But the one other challenge that I highlighted was the issue of stealing of food. And if you can go to any shelter, honorable member, even if it's a shelter that we've been there the next day, they will actually tell you that there is no food, we are hungry, there is this, there's that. There is another one where you find that people who came to the shelter were young men and women, were young men in the main, who were living, I don't want to say cohabiting, but who are living with their boyfriends in those shacks out there. So the women are inside, but they will then ensure that they steal food, and these boyfriends take food to outside to where the boyfriend stays, because the boyfriends are not staying in the shelter and so on. So there's quite a number of disturbing stories in terms of how they conduct themselves in those areas. And they will, most of the time, they will not agree that government is actually supporting them. It's like government is not doing anything for us when we are actually doing something for them, over and above the support that we are getting from the NGOs, NPOs, and the business sector. So the database is there. We have documented each and every person who is there. We have a register, and then we reconcile with the Department of Human Settlement, because Human Settlement, they work very closely with the municipality, eThekwini municipalities in particular, as I'm referring to eThekwini, because they need to know who must be given a shelter and where they were staying before and so on. And also there is a social facilitation that is done by Human Settlement, visiting the past people in the shelter and actually updating them to say, as you are staying in this area, the temporary residential units for you are going to be built there, and that's what needs to happen. We were so saddened that when that process was taking place, I think late in July or early in August, one of the officials from the Department of Human Settlement was robbed and shot at in Dozuma whilst he was doing that work. Then with regard to the question by Honorable Nkwanyana in terms of taking the children away from the parents, we did not take the children away from the parents. What one was saying was that we wanted to relieve the parents to say, if you don't mind, we can take the child to a place, because we do have places of safety that are funded by the department, to say maybe in the interim, so that the child is not traumatized in a strange environment. For example, some of the recent incidences, you'll find that there is a complaint that some adults, they will do sex before even, who are couples, before even others sleep. So you can see that there are things that children witness and see that they are not supposed to see in those shelters. Remember, they are in this shelter, they are strangers, they don't know each other, and the risk of children being abused is high, because the person that lives in this shelter, that man, you don't know whether that man is one of the people who is a rapist and so on. It was out of that concern, but it was not that we wanted it to be not supportive to the parents. It was an idea that, and that's why we did not force to take the children away. It was like saying, one of the options, if you feel that this is a burden for you, remember you have to go to work, because most of them, they go to work during the day and they come back. But if you feel that we can come in and assist and take the children, we can do so. So that is what one was highlighting, but we did not remove a children from their mothers. You see, when you're in a crisis, you try and see how best we can support each other, so that people are able to actually be able to actually manage the situation. The social workers are not enough, honorable members, in terms of providing the support, because remember, they must attend. In each shelter, you'll find that there are people who are 80 or even more than 80. So then you must address each and every, let's say if there is a father, a mother, and 3 children, you must address the mother and do that counseling, and the mother, and maybe jointly the parents, and also the children themselves individually, and then jointly all of them as a family. So it's a mammoth task. Imagine if you do not even have a private space to actually do the work, because there are people all over. So they are not enough. The Department of Home Affairs, it's a process. They are still working with the families, but some of the families, the majority of them have been able to get their documents, but some have not as yet. But what we can do, we can also request Home Affairs to actually give us the latest report on this matter. In terms of the question by Honorable Shamim, maybe that one I will also respond together with a question that was raised by Honorable Governor. You see, the social workers, it's just that we did not put this in the presentation, but when I was presented, I said that the social workers, we were supported by UN agencies, and one of the UN agencies is UNICEF. UNICEF partnered with National Department, and then they gave us a company, it's a company of consultants, they called SAMs. And those people, those consultants are the ones who contracted unemployed social work graduates, and it's not the department at all. But what I want to propose, because we have Dr. Klaba in the meeting, we do have a report on the real-time monitoring tool that we have received out of that process that we have already presented in the social cluster. We can then, Dr. present to the honorable members here, so that they can see the work that has been done in terms of collecting the data, that survey, to come up with this tool that can help us going forward. So it's not out of the money of the department, but we are supported. We are requesting, Honorable Chair, that we present this document to honorable members in the next meeting, because it's the document that is available. And then there is a question on how the department is planning to increase social workers' workforce. We know that as the province, we have more than 2,000 unemployed social work graduates, and we do not have money to employ them. So the fact that that we also raised on honorable members that we can't even fill posts of vacant posts like the CCGs or whoever, is because when there were budget cuts, the department felt the pain of budget cuts, because the cut was done to 800 warm bodies. We have never seen that. What I know is that if there are budget cuts, you will find that maybe there will be cuts for all the vacancies that are not yet filled. But the cuts that were experienced by the department was the cuts in relation to warm bodies. That's why even if there is a person who can die now, you can't feel that that person has died, because he was being paid on the money that is not there, because the cuts went through to the warm bodies that are in the department. Provincial Treasury has also confirmed that in their reports to Finance Committee as well. But I must indicate that our plan is that if we can get more money, we can employ social workers, and also we're working in collaboration with other provinces, and the national department is also leading in that process to make a bid with the National Treasury so that we get more funding to employ social workers, and also encourage other departments that employ social workers to actually do so, because there's quite a number of them in the province. We have 2,000, and in that 2,000, the majority of them are those that received a scholarship from the department based on the need that was identified, that social work is a scarce skill. And at this time of crisis of this climate change, we need more social workers. We do have their work, it's just that we are unable to actually employ and pay them. With regard to the issue of the foreign nationals, the Department of Home Affairs, that unit that is responsible for foreign nationals, they're still working with those families, because there are children as well. So the process is still ongoing. That is the people who are at the Truro in Pietermaritzburg, which is one of the shelters. And then with regard to the question by Honorable Tembe, well, we've covered the first part, that where you're proposing ongoing report. We support that, so that honorable members are on top of it in terms of what is actually happening. I must indicate, honorable members, that in this instance, social development is not the only department that is responding to what happened in the province. So some of the areas, they fall outside our scope. For example, the issue of ensuring that there is water, there are more like these showers, portable showers, the ablution facilities, and so some of those issues, they fall within the scope of COGTA. So we are not working alone as social development. In fact, there is an interministerial committee on disasters that is chaired by MEC COGTA, where all other departments that have a role to play come and account and indicate what is it that has been done and how far are we getting the support from the national structure in terms of managing the disasters that happened in the province. Because other than the shelters, and also you know that there's infrastructure, there's this, there's that. So the Department of Social Development, we're not the only one, and we cannot account for the work of other departments. But it's safe to say that there are other departments that have a role to play. That included even eThekwini municipality in eThekwini, and even in other areas, the local government, the municipalities, they have a role to play as well. we must also indicate, or honorable members, in terms of the Department of Human Settlement, that there is a lot of work that they are also doing. We work very closely because they need to advise us when the temporary residential units are ready, and that people will then be moving out. The shelters are closed, and then we go to where they are. At least it's much better you assist the family in their own private space, even in terms of the SRD, the issue of psychosocial support and so on. So we work very much closely with Human Settlement, and we understand the challenges where at times they would say there's no land to actually build the TRUs and so on. So they also have a database. In most of the time, we find that our database are the same because they service the same people who are in shelters. We always say when we are on our own with them to say, you see, guys, the sooner you build these TRUs, the better for us, because we need to ensure that at least they live in a decent way in their private space. So with us, we are saying the sooner they are in their own private space, the better, because it's not a healthy life to be in a shelter. We've been there. Most of the shelters I've personally visited them myself. And then with regard to the issue of the older persons that went to the old age homes, I will not have the number of those people, but I remember one that we found when we went to one of the shelters in they said Stay, the one that we took her there and there, because it was like she is in the street now. But she was well attended to. So I don't have the exact number of the older people that we sent to the old age homes. But in the next meeting, one will come with the exact number, and that has assisted them a great deal. On honorable members. I think I've tried to respond to most questions. And then the question by the Honorable Chair, that's how long will it take for the people to share in the shelters? We don't know, but the number has gone down considering the number that we had initially when that started, because as temporary residential units, as they are built, people, they move, then the shelter is closed. That's why when you go to Uku district, there is no shelter at all, because they were all decommissioned. So there are no shelters. People, they went back to their homes and their families, and are supported accordingly. So we are not sure as yet, but in yesterday's meeting at the Provincial Executive Council, there is a time frame that Department of Human Settlement gave, considering other alternatives that I indicated, that they shared with us all the other alternatives other than the temporary residential units, but another idea of actually the plan of actually identifying the blocks of flats that are not occupied, that can be made available for the people to leave the shelters and occupy those shelters until those block of flats, until they are sorted out with houses. So that's why then at least that will assist us to shorten their stay in the shelters, because it's not a good thing at all. You must be struggling in your own private space. It's much better, it's decent as compared to what is actually happening right now. Honorable Chair, honorable members, may I stop here with a request that we also bring reports, even if it's monthly, because we are in the shelters almost daily, so that you are posted in terms of what is happening out there. We must also confirm the visit by the ad hoc committee from the National Assembly. They recently visited eThekwini and Ugu district, and they have also also identify the challenges that are there. We made them to visit one of the shelters, and they made their comments. And some members were even saying, because we can see that you do not have enough social workers to actually do a thorough psychosocial support, why don't you employ those that are unemployed, because you need them. So now, whatever proposal that can assist us, we welcome that. It's just that we do not have money at this point in time to actually employ the social workers, because we do have their work. It's just that we can't pay them at this point in time. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members.
Thank you so much, HOD, for a good presentation. We appreciate that you came prepared with this presentation, and you have empowered us, HOD. And we also, as the committee, will do a follow-up on the department with regards to the reports, as we have taken the resolution that the department should make a standard reporting to the portfolio committee with regards to the progress of these shelters. We know that you are doing a lot as the social development, but it's not only social development that is involved in actually assisting the shelters. There are many other departments, like your human settlements, your health, education, home affairs, COCTA, ethic. We hope that you still do have a forum where you meet as different departments and discuss about the issues and the state of these shelters, so that the beneficiaries, they get assisted soon. We hope so. We are also looking for you, HOD, to give us a report and a presentation on the donations to be tabled before the portfolio committee, maybe in our next meeting. We can appreciate that. And I would like to thank you, HOD, and I would like to thank you for the fact that you are always hands-on as the HOD, and we appreciate the fact that you always make yourself available to us. Even if we send some cases to you, you just jump and attend to those cases. So keep up the good work that you are doing. You are making it easier for us, especially as members of the legislature who are representative of the people out there, because when they've got problems, they run to us and they need assistance. So you don't complain when we send questions or we send cases to you. You just jump and deal with the cases. It shows that you are really indeed a social worker yourself. Thank you, HOD. Can we now move to the to the departmental reports? We are going to have the financials and the non-financials. Then I suggest that we do a discussion and then approve the first quarter report before we continue with expenditure to date. I don't know whether who is going to take us through the financials.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair and honorable members. I do have the team. I did not tender the apology of some of the colleagues in the beginning. They are not well at all. So the financials, we have the DDGs of SIC is not well, and also the chief director and another director, they are not well. We have Mr. Krish Shumrankam, but he will cover the last presentation on the disabilities. So in terms of the first quarter performance report on the financials, we have the acting CFO, Mr. Mgomezulu, who is going to cover that. And then on the performance non-financials, we have Dr. Kaba, who is going to present that part. We are starting with the first quarter report. Dr. Kaba, if you can just please come in. I'm sure the honorable members have seen the report, so he will just be running on the report. Thank you very much, Dr. Klaba. Good afternoon, Doctor. You can come in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaba. We have seen the report and we had a briefing in the meeting in the morning. We do have questions, in fact, a lot of questions before us. So when you do the presentation, just speak to it and you don't take a long time on the presentation. Over to you, Dr. Kaba.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and greetings to honorable members, HOD and colleagues. And as guided by the Chair, of the 50 slides which provide the information on the performance of the department during the first quarter, I will summarize it in less than 10 slides. Indeed, we are presenting the non-financial performance of the department for the first quarter of the 2022-23 financial year. During the first quarter, we had a total of 53 performance indicators. Out of the 53, we fully achieved the 50 indicators. There was underachievement on the 3 performance indicators, and the overall performance of the department was 94% for the quarter. I will then share with members the 3 performance indicators where we underachieved. If you can move to the next slide. On the next slide, it's a graphical presentation of the performance of the districts. But I must indicate that on this slide, we're not comparing a district with the next one. What we're doing, we are showing how each district performed against the targets that the district set for itself. I must highlight to the members that not all the districts have targeted for all the performance indicators, because you might find that in one district they don't have a shelter for the elderly, for instance. So they would not have an indicator that talks to a residential facility for the elderly. So that's why we don't compare a district against each other. On this slide, sorry, the presenter is moving too fast. If you can go back. If you can go back, I just want to summarize because I don't want to take too much time. For the so this is the number of indicators that we have. It's a pie graph which indicates the number of indicators that we had for the first quarter, and the number that was achieved and the number that was not achieved. I will then summarize, Chairperson, as guided and as indicated as well that the report was read. In that, for Program 1, 5 indicators out of the 53. It had 5 indicators, and the number of indicators that were fully achieved was 4, and the number of indicators that was not achieved was 1. And the one indicator which was not fully achieved was the percentage of suppliers paid within 30 days from the receipt of a valid invoice. we did not fully achieve this under this indicator. The turnaround is that we're going to introduce an electronic invoice tracking system, which is going to give us a dashboard of the invoices that have been received and the due date for payment of those invoices, as well as invoices that have not been received, so that we chase those invoices from suppliers. But also, another reason why some of these invoices are not paid within 30 days is because some invoices come with wrong information and they are returned back to the suppliers so that they correct the information. So that then delays the processing of the invoices. But the electronic tracking system is going to help us because it's going to give us an indication of the whereabouts of each of the invoices. Moving on to program 2, which is the welfare services, under the sub-program older person services, the number of indicators under the sub-program were a total of 3, and all the 3 indicators under the sub-program were fully achieved. The next program, still under program 2, the sub-program under disability services, the number of indicators were 3. Also, under the sub-program, all the indicators were fully achieved. Moving on, still under program 2, but now focusing on the sub-program of HIV and AIDS. This sub-program had a total number of 4 indicators, and those that were fully achieved were 3, and there was an underachievement of 1, and this indicator which was not fully achieved under this sub-program is the number of beneficiaries receiving psychosocial support. And the reason for this underperformance was because of the exit of the CCGs, the community caregivers, who exit the system through natural attrition, and currently we're not replacing them. So that affected us in achieving this indicator fully. The next program is program 3, under children and families. This program had a total number of 13 indicators, and those that were fully achieved were 12, and 1 was underachieved. And this indicator, which was underachieved under the program 3, was the number of children with valid court orders. And the reason for underachievement of this indicator was the Imbumbulu court, which does not accept more than 15 cases per day. And the turnaround is that eThekwini South District is engaging the Chief Magistrate with regard to Imbumbulu court so that they increase the number of cases that they can attend on a daily basis so that we are able to reduce the backlog. Moving on to the next program, which is program 4. This program had a total number of 9 indicators, and all the 9 indicators were fully achieved. And proceeding to the next program, which is program 5, which is community development and research. This program had a total number of 16 indicators, and all the 16 indicators were fully achieved. I would request that I bring my presentation to an end at this point, taking into account that the report was read, and also having summarized the presentation by highlighting the total number of indicators per program and the number of indicators fully achieved under each program, and those that were not fully achieved, and also having identified which ones were those, and having provided the reasons for underachievement and the turnaround strategy to remedy the situation. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Dr. Kaba, and thank you for the presentation. Can we have Mr. Mngomezulu to do the financials, the acting CFO of the department? Mr. Mngomezulu, why are you still acting?
The department is going to be filling the post soon, but HOD can elaborate on that one, Honorable Chair.
HOD, why we still have got an acting CFO?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Honorable members. We're almost done with the recruitment process, Honorable Chair. I'm sure next time when we appear before the committee, we will have a CFO. We have a Director, Mrs. Mpanza, also in the meeting. In case he has a network challenge, Mrs. Mpanza will come in as well. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, HOD. Acting CFO, Mr. Mngomezulu.
Greetings to Honorable Chair, Honorable members, HOD and colleagues. I'm presenting the financial performance for the first quarter. If we can move to the next slide, where there is a presentation outline which talks to revenue performance, budget performance, conditional grants, transfer payments, specifically and exclusively allocated funds, expenditure as at 27 September 2022, which we are going to present later, as indicated by Chair. The next slide, if we can shoot to slide number 4. Slide number 4 reflects the spending or the collections on revenue. The first 4 columns are talking to the item for revenue, and the first quarter projection, we projected to collect 2.381 million, and we only managed to collect 2.164, which is 90.9%. And on the annual projection, we collected 20.7%. We are saying in the next page, or next slide, the narrative is that we could not collect as projected under goods and services because of the suspension of handicrafts that are produced at Handicraft Center in KwaZulu-Natal. This was due to the impact of COVID-19, so the department suspended the productions and sale, but we have now started operations at KwaZulu-Natal. We are hoping to report a future that we have done some collections. In terms of interest and dividends and rent on land, we also collected lower than projected. This was because of this being difficult to project, because the collections that we are getting here are from debts, and it depends on the ability of the debtor to collect the revenue. On sale of capital assets, we recorded 10,000. We haven't done our auction on redundant motor vehicles. This one was only for the laptops and cell phones that were sold. In transactions in financial assets and liabilities, we overcollected there because of the reinvestment of an overpayment that was done to an NPO lifeline, and there were also recoveries from staff debts that we made. On the next slide, it's the spending budget performance per program, where we had projected to spend 781.9 million, and we spent 821.1 million, which was 105% of the budget for the first quarter. And against the annual allocation, we spent 25.4% of the budget. The problems or the programs that are having pressures is program 1, program 3, and others were within the 25%, although they were below. And in terms of economic classification, which is the next slide, the next slide, if you can, yes, the next slide. If you look at the compensation of employees, I'll look at the last column, which is talking to percentage spent. And our COE is 25.5. And by the end of June, we were projecting 33.1 million overspending. Goods and services was at 26.6, and we were projecting 7.897 million. And in terms of transfer payments, we were at the total, it's 24.9%. In terms of provinces and municipalities, we were at 43.9%. And departmental agencies and accounts, we were at 76%. And non-profit institutions at 24.7%. And households, we were at 9.8%. Buildings and other fixed structures, we were at 21.7%. And machinery and equipment, we were below at 27.3%. And if we move to the next slide, it talks to the performance per program. For program 1, if I can summarize the pressure, we spent 28.9%. The reasons for pressure there, it's the budget cuts on COE, and as well as the non-pensionable allowance that we are paying since the beginning of the financial year, where we don't have a budget. In terms of the COE, HOD indicated earlier in her presentation that the budget cuts left us with officials or the department being unable to pay salaries for officials numbering to 800. And as we move to the next financial year, that number will increase because as you move to the outer years, the budget cut increases. So we are expecting to see an increased number of officials that the department will not be able to fund their salaries in the next financial year. The other issue in terms of goods and services is the security services that we always report to honorable members, that the department has a serious problem when it comes to the allocation for security services. As we indicated in the previous meeting, that the operational budget is far below when compared to the service delivery budget. Municipal services, escalation are also causing pressure under property payments. The SMT costs, as indicated by HOD, that during the floods, the SMS members and the social workers had to go out to respond to the floods. The other issue which we have corrected during the second quarter was that the payments relating to property payments and communications were billed against the program 1. We have corrected that during the second quarter, we processed journals. In terms of interest and rent on land, we paid an amount of 1,000 there against this item, and this is as a result of the invoices that we are getting from Eskom and other other district municipalities, where we even if we have paid, they are charging us interest, which means they do not do their reconciliations before issuing the new bill. And Eskom, it is happening mostly in such a way that they even disconnect, even though the department has paid, which means the reconciliation is not happening properly. What has the department done is that we are trying to make an appointment with Eskom so that we try and iron out all these issues. But we've been trying for a number of weeks now to get a date for an appointment. When we make calls, they are not responding. In terms of transfers and subsidies to provinces for this program, we exceeded the budget, but we are not foreseeing any pressures here, because what made us to exceed was that we paid the bulk of licenses renewals for the KZN motor vehicles, and yet the department is not procuring the cars because of the hijackings. So we are not foreseeing any pressures in this one. In terms of departmental agencies and accounts, we paid a once-off invoice for HWCTA, and we are also not foreseeing any further pressures in this item. Under households, transfers to households, we underspent. This one depends on the staff exits that we pay. If the staff exits are lower, we don't spend much. In terms of machinery and equipment, we also did not spend much under this category, because the department was still assessing the tools of trade to be procured to replace those that were vandalized during the July unrest, as well as the break-ins that to replace the tools of trade as a result of the break-ins that took place in our offices like Utrecht and Ethekwini cluster. If we move to the next slide, for program 2, the reason and the compensation of employees is the same as to program 1. And we also have same reason as for goods and services, although I did not talk about the accruals under program 1, but the other cost driver, it's property payments that were paid in the current year, yet they belong to a prior year. In terms of interest and rent on land, we spent 1,000 here, and this will be corrected, or it has been corrected in the first in the second quarter, because it belongs to program 1. In terms of the transfers and subsidies, we were lower than projected by 6.8 million due to delays in submission of claims by non-profit institutions, largely in respect of HIV and AIDS sub-program. Further contributing was lower than anticipated number of persons with disabilities who access community-based care and support services. On transfers to households, also here we underspent. The spending is reliant to the staff exit, the number of staff exiting the department. For buildings and other fixed structures during the first quarter, we underspent by 6.9 million, mainly due to slow progress in the implementation of projects such as Bentley service offices and Hlanganani offices. The department is in the process of sourcing a replacement contractor to complete the Hlanganani service office project, and this project was thus paused while this process is underway. The department further indicate that expenditure was not incurred in the first quarter in respect of projects that were still in the planning phase, such as Newcastle service offices and Bamshela service offices, among others. In terms of machinery and equipment for this program, there was underspending due to lower than anticipated procurement for tools of trade, as explained in Program 1. Program 3, children and families, we were higher than the budget at 26.1. Compensation of employees was overspent because of the reasons mentioned in Program 1. Goods and services was underspent due to lower than anticipated projected spending on contractors, which is related to payments that are made to social workers that are contracted to our NPOs to deal with the community-based care services, like you see in the model. In terms of transfers, I'll move to non-profit institutions where we paid ECD. So the transfers to non-profit institutions was overspent by 21.4 million during the first quarter because of paying the ECDs, the accruals, because March claims were paid during April after we had surrendered the budget to the Department of Education. I think we discussed this with the members, which the Treasury in the report raised it as if there were disputes between the two departments, of which we indicated that there were no disputes. In terms of house transfers to household, we slightly overspent due to higher than anticipated staff exits. And we normally say this category is difficult to project because you never know the exits. The exits in terms of retirement, that is understandable, but with other resignations and deaths, is difficult to project. Buildings and other fixed structures was overspent by 6.4 million, mainly in respect of prior ECD invoices that we paid during current financial year. Next slide, which talks to machinery and equipment for Program 3, was underspent by 951,000 as a result of lower than anticipated procurement of tools of trade, as explained in Program 1. Program 4, restorative services, we reflect underspending of 23.4% due to compensation of employees, where we had the underspending due to the delay in the appointment of GBV social workers, which have funds, and the department appointed these social workers 30 in May 22. The final recruitment process, and most of them started working in June. In terms of goods and services, there was also underspending due to the journals which are supposed to be processed from Program 1 to charge this program. In terms of transfers and subsidies to non-profit institutions, it was slightly underspent due to lower than projected claims, mainly emanating from the crime prevention and the substance abuse prevention and rehabilitation sub-programs, as some NPOs have not yet implemented various funded programs such as social crime prevention programs. These programs have not yet been implemented because in the first quarter the department was in the process of requesting proposal from suitable service providers who were to undertake these programs. In terms of transfers and subsidies to households, there was nil spending against the projected 46,000. As indicated, that this is a category which is difficult to project because there's always pay staff exit costs. In terms of machinery and equipment, we also underspent in this program because of the reasons as mentioned in Program 1. Program 5, Development and Research, the spending was at 22.5% against the appropriation. However, compensation of employees was overspent because of the reasons mentioned in Program 1. Goods and services, we overspent because of food security programs and the continuous budget pressures in respect of property payments, as mentioned. The department undertook further analysis into higher spending compared to projections and reported that travel and subsistence costs were higher during the first quarter due to payment for prior year related to Women's Skills Development Program that took place in March 2020 and May 2022. Furthermore, other programs that were undertaken in the first quarter, which resulted to higher than projected spending, include increased activities during the Youth Month, such as handing over of the startup kits for youth graduation ceremony, dialogues and substance abuse. In terms of transfer payments, there was the underspending. On the next slide, there was the underspending against projections due to lower than projected claims, mainly emanating from youth development sub-program in respect of procurement of equipment for the Nkonyeni Youth Center in the Ugu district. The center is planning to do the procurement of office furniture during the second quarter, which is ending this week. Further contributing to underspending were lower than projected claims against women development support program as a result of non-profit institutions awaiting training to capacitate them with skills such as financial management and governance, among others, because here the department does not fund same projects like in other programs, in programs 2 to 4, where we continue funding same projects. Here we fund new projects, so before disbursing funds, they need to be capacitated on financial management. In terms of transfers and households, there was the underspending due to lower than anticipated staff exit costs. Buildings and other fixed structures was underspent in respect of projects that were still in the planning phase, such as the Umvoti Youth Center, among others. In terms of machinery and equipment, there was the underspending, as the reason being the same as indicated in Program 1. In terms of conditional grants, the department spent 89% of the allocated budget for the first quarter. The reason being when the allocation for the grant was reduced, the department took the other CCGs were linked to equitable share. So the number of CCGs that were removed from the grant to the equitable share was more than supposed to be. That has been corrected during the second quarter. The number now equals the allocation. And we hope we in the next report we will be reporting the 50% spent during the second quarter. The allocation in respect of early childhood development grant, it's a rollover, which we reported in the previous meeting that Treasury allocated that funding to the department, but we are in the process, as we are now going to be starting the project of adjustments estimates. These funds will be reallocated to the Department of Education because they relate to the presidential stimulus package. I'll stop there, Chairperson. Or let me deal with the last slide, the next slide. The next slide, the next slide, which talks to the social relief. As at end of June, the department had spent 13.9% of the allocation for social relief of distress. The other slides of the specifically and exclusively allocated funds I think I have dealt with in the programs. I'll stop there, Chairperson, because the other slides relate to the expenditure to date as requested by the committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Acting CFO, for this presentation. You've elaborated a lot, but I'll hand over to the members to ask questions of clarity I know that we do have questions of clarity. Can we just get into this report, both the financials and the non-financials? We ask questions, and then afterwards they are going to respond, and we adopt the first quarter report. Over to you, honorable members.
Honorable Dembe, Chair.
Another hand in the house, those who have not joined visually. Okay, I've got two at the moment, Honorable Dembe and Honorable Governor.
Thank you, Chair. Just a few from my side. I don't understand how, retirement is one of those when the age sort of approaches near, the department can kind of do an audit of who will probably be retiring in the next few years. I don't think it's a surprise more than anything else. I think someone quitting or dying is a different story to someone retiring. I think there needs to be more effort in trying to figure out who would probably be retiring maybe in the next 5 years to plan on how that would continue. And then I know that the department is trying to deal with the issue of vehicles and the shortage of vehicles by saying, if I got this wrong, social workers utilizing their own vehicles and claiming back. But also to understand there's already an issue with social workers not getting paid on a consistent basis means that you have to deal with the wear and tear more often. Is that not putting a little bit more pressure on the social workers with utilizing their own vehicles? The problem is hijackings, yes, but I don't think that will minimize the problem by utilizing your own car. I just think, it increases, example, your insurance personally when you're going to be utilizing your own vehicle for work purposes. So I understand that that's the proposal, but I think we should just sort of look at the livelihoods of social workers first before deciding not to further buy vehicles for social workers, or to not actually deal with the vehicles currently that are not working, that are in a backlog and sitting for them being fixed. Also, I'm a bit worried about the escalation of elderly abuse that's been happening in that specific place. Is it trying to figure out why has there been an escalation in this specific place in the short space of time, and what is the department going to do about that? I mean, elderly abuse is not a new phenomena, so there should be something to be able to be done in a much quicker basis. Another thing is the capacity building for NPOs. NPOs are failing. I know there's something put down about financial management. I think that's paramount to the success of NPOs, and they really are struggling. And how often do NPOs get capacitated? And the reason also that they're not producing their claims fast enough is also a huge issue. And I think that there needs to be more focus going into NPOs regarding their financial management and how to get them out of the red, because most of them are in it now, and their financial management regarding abuse that's happening with finances and most of the NPOs. That's quite a huge thing. And another thing is, we're still worried about the APPs being so high and all the targets being reached, and yet there's always still continuous underspending. As I mentioned before, is that when you set a target that's reachable, you'll reach it. So we must also now look at the fact that I know the department said they'll look at how they do their APPs in future, but they can't be underspending and reaching all your targets at the same time. There's going to be some sort of disconnect between the two, and the fact that there are not enough employees on the ground as well, with the fact that there's so many vacant posts. That means we're either having superwomen and supermen on the ground doing some incredible work, or there's just quite a disconnect that's not truly being reflected. And on the one hand, we did see, I think it was the one NGO saying it's not an accurate reflection, and which we're grateful as a committee that that's a response by the department. But my view is that you will probably see more discrepancies like that it's not actually talking to each other. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Governor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the acting CFO. I don't want to say acting CFO at the next meeting, Chair. We'd like to see that this post be filled and be filled by the right person. Chair, just a few questions from my side. Firstly, I'm a bit concerned about the projected overspend. You know, that is quite a high figure, and really the department needs to do something in terms of controlling that overspend so that we don't reach the end of the financial year and find ourselves at such a high overspend. The Honourable Chamber referred to issues regarding the high number of vacant posts. Now, what we should be told is how is this affecting service delivery? Because, you know, if you look at the reports, in many instances we are told that the department is overachieving. Now, how can they be overachieving when, firstly, on the one hand, they don't have enough social workers. Secondly, they don't have enough vehicles. And also, they don't have enough tools of trade. So how are they overachieving? If we can get a sense of that. Chair, then I'd like to refer also to the issue of vehicle licensing. I see also there was overspend. Now, if you are overspending on vehicle licensings, it basically tells me that there was poor planning. Surely the department is aware of how many vehicles they have and how much it's going to cost them during a particular financial year to buy vehicle licenses, because this is not a new expenditure that will come up all of a sudden like a flood or some other kind of disaster that would happen. Chair, my other concern, and I'd like to get some kind of answers with regard to security services. I see that new contracts are being entered into and the figure is going up all the time. Now, to a certain point, I can understand that there's always escalation of costs. But how far does it go? If the department is going to constantly enter into new contracts and find that they are working out of their budget, then this must be a concern for us. Surely there can be some kind of negotiation with other service providers so that we can get value for money and thereby mitigate going into overspend. The other issue, Chair, is with regard to the use of private vehicles by social workers. Now, I understand that this will save us money in terms of procuring new vehicles, but it's going to cost us more in terms of paying social workers for the use of their vehicles. Now, in the last meeting, I also asked this question: how is that being monitored? In terms of a social worker saying, I am going from point A to point B, how many kilometers, what are the costs, and so on. And my concern will then extend to, what if that social worker meets an accident? Will that social worker's insurance policy on a vehicle cover that because it is being used for work purposes? And I know most insurance companies will not cover you if you or you would need to pay a higher premium if you're using your vehicle for for work purposes. Now, are social workers aware of that? And will the department compensate them should their vehicle be hijacked, or should their vehicle be involved in an accident? So we need some kind of clarity on that, Chair. Chair, with regard to buildings and other fixed structures, there was an underspend of 6.92 million rand, almost 7 million rand. Now, these projects are being stalled because of slow progress, because of service providers not completing the project, and now the department is looking for new service providers. could we have some kind of time frames in terms of how long is it going to take now for these buildings to be completed and handed over? Because Chair, you find that once buildings start and then they are left incomplete, then you find that vandals get in, and you find that fittings are removed, and the building itself is vandalized to a large extent. And should the department then want to complete the project, they end up paying more. So I think that is something that we need to prioritize, so that those projects are not left incomplete for a longer period of time. Then with regard to payments and transfers to non-profit institutions from the previous financial year, now we see that monies are being paid from this financial year for expenses that were incurred in the previous financial year. Now, I do understand that invoices would have come in April. That's fine, but the monies should have been made available in the previous financial year, so that we are not paying out of funds from this financial year. Now, I'd like the acting CFO to tell us how is he going to handle this going forward, because these expenses from the previous financial year are going to eat into his budget of this financial year. I'm happy to see, Chair, that the department has appointed 30 social workers for gender-based violence, which is a good thing, because the scale of gender-based violence is really something that needs more attention. Chair, then I see in Program 5, Research and Development, that the department is outsourcing research and development functions. Now, I can't understand why it is outsourcing it when you have staff in that particular program that should be doing the research and development. By outsourcing it, we are actually incurring more costs, and this department is constantly crying out for more funds, which I can agree with. But if they're going to be outsourcing things, then it's going to increase their budget strain. This I can also see in the issue of training of I'm seeing the women development sub program, that they need to be capacitated with financial management skills, and even here the department wants to outsource this. Now, surely the financial sector within the department knows exactly what they want from these NPOs. So why can't the department do the training themselves? Why do they need to outsource it? Because if you outsource it to some company, they will not know exactly what the department wants in terms of the NPO's financial management style, and what sort of reporting they should be doing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Is there any other member who has got a question of clarity? I don't see any hand. You can help me with the people who have attended a physical. I just want to start off by asking a question of clarity with regards to non-financials. Dr. Kaba. Dr. Kaba, can you explain to me or give me a clarity? According to the APP, the department is having about 67 performance indicators, but the department now is saying they are reporting about 53 performance indicators. They have achieved about 50, and it's only 3 that they have not achieved, and the overall performance is 94%, which is good. But my question goes back to what Honourable Lescavenda is asking, to say, why are we doing so well? How come the department is overachieving and is able to overachieve. Can you tell us about your strategy when you don't have social workers? You have got social CCGs that were passed on. There are no vehicles, and the department does not have enough money, because about plus minus 300 million was taken from the department. So can you just share with us in that regard? And the second question with regards to the non-financials is an increase of the elderly abuse, especially in the area of Umzinyati. On this one, I think we need to take a resolution which says, also as the portfolio committee, maybe we can have a joint visit, the social development and quality of life, to have a joint visit to this area of Umzinyati. If we can get a slot, we must take this as a resolution. And lastly, on the non-financials, I want to know about the CCGs that have passed on. How many CCGs have passed on? Can you tell us as this committee? Coming back to the financials, the department is showing an over expenditure on the compensation of employees, about 8.9 million. And the department is projecting to overspend by about 33%. The department has spent 11.9 million more than the benchmark of 25%. How come there is such a big over expenditure when you said you are not able to employ people because you don't have money? If you can just give us that clarity. There is also an over expenditure. I thought that Honorable Governor is going to ask about this one. And on over expenditure by about 6.455 million relating to ECD. Yes, Mr. Mngomezulu is explaining that there are no issues between them and education. But can you tell us that this over expenditure of 6.455 million, how is it going to be addressed, and how are you addressing it with the Department of Education? Because ECD has been transferred to the Department of Education now. I just don't understand why in the first quarter report we are still talking about the over expenditure of ECDs. If you can just tell me that. Mr. Mngomezulu, you have also indicated that there are pressures in Program 1 and Program 3. Can you tell us about what are the pressures exactly, besides that one of the compensation of employees? I thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members, for the questions and comments. We will respond. Maybe let me allow the colleagues to start. Then I'll come at the end in case there are those that they will not have been answered. There was also a question from Honorable Temba regarding the social workers using their vehicles when they do their work. In the public service, we have different schemes in terms of how you can be assisted to actually do the work. There's a scheme that look into government buying a car for you, that is a subsidy. There's another one where you can use your own car and then we then reimburse you, or you use the state vehicle. So it was one of the options, but the social workers that are using their own cars, not a single one was coerced to actually use his or her own car. It was out of fear of being hijacked, because like honorable member did indicate that the social workers have those challenges of being hijacked. We have quite a number of those incidences in the department, in such a way that we have even
do they claim from the department, those who are using their own vehicles?
Yes, they claim for the from the department. There is a structured way in terms of how it is done. They are taken through, they apply in writing to use their own cars. It's called Scheme B. They apply, then they are taken through, then the HOD approves that. And then you also have X number of kilometers to travel. You cannot travel wire, X number of kilometers to travel. And then the supervisor, because social workers, they work under the supervision of the social workers. If you go out to do home visit, the supervisor knows how many households will be visited, or you're going to court and so on. And then that is reconciled accordingly. And then at the end of the month, the social worker concerned is reimbursed for what he or she has spent. So it's a well structured process that is done by all government departments as per the circulars and guidance from the Department of Transport National. So we all use that, but they use that voluntarily, because some you find that they are not willing to use KZN vehicles because of that risk. And also, honorable members, you will know that the majority of our frontline officials are women. So those are the people who have challenges in terms of being hijacked when they are using the KZN vehicles. We have engaged the provincial commissioner to support us, and he gave us his commanders who are also responsible for car hijacking in general. And they told us that you're not the only department. But what we have done to manage that as well, we have then, because before, I think the thieves out there had an idea that government vehicles do not have trackers. So we have then started to install the trackers in our vehicles. But those guys from SAPS that we engaged with, they also advise that you must not put one tracker in a car, put more than one, so that even if they steal it, but you are able to also locate it. So it's one of the mitigating strategies that we have put in place to actually secure their safety. And some we have even sent them for trauma counseling, because it's very traumatic that people have to take the car away from you. You are hijacked. In one office that Honorable MEC visited in under King Cetshwayo, and was trying to support them because there's quite a high number of car hijackings there. One social worker, you could see that she has still not yet gone over this, and then we have advised management to also monitor that she undergoes the further psychotherapy because of the trauma, because she was relating her story that they had already taken the child, they put her in the forest, had already taken the child, and they were undressing her because they wanted to rape her. So they were disturbed by the caller, who knew that they are in the forest with the car. Now is wondering why are they not coming out with the car, so that off he goes. So it's quite a traumatic experience, but those who cannot afford to have their own cars, they use KZN vehicles. We've tried to use subs to escort us, but the capacity on their side, it couldn't work out to actually for us to get that support. So those are the challenges. But I want to request the colleagues to actually come in, because I'm sure what I would want to say, they will also cover it. Maybe if we can start you'll come last, Mr. Kesai. I was going to come to you. Starting with Mr. Dr. Klaba, then we'll go to Mr. Mgomezulu, then we'll go to Mr. Kesai, will cover the HR related matters in terms of the issues of the employment of officials and so on. Dr. Klaba.
Thank you very much, HOD. Let me start with the question by Honorable Tembe on the issue of the capacity building of NPOs. It will in a way also touch on what Honorable Governor also asked about the outsourcing of the training of NPOs. We train NPOs and build their capacity on an ongoing basis. But most importantly, the critical moment for building the capacity of NPOs is during the pre-funding period, when they've applied for funding and they've been approved. But before we disperse money to them, we need to ensure that they do have the capacity to be able to manage the funds. They do have the capacity for project management and so on and so forth. So there's a number of capacity building programs which are structured, which have been designed to build the capacity of the NPOs so that they are able to manage their own affairs. One of the reasons why the NPOs fail to manage their affairs properly, it's because of the changes in the leadership structures of the NPOs. Remember that the NPO Act prescribes that NPOs should have an annual general meeting, which of course happens every year. And in many cases, when the AGMs happen, the current members of the NPOs will be replaced by a new leadership structure of an NPO. So it means the department, if we continue funding that same NPO in the following financial year, we need to start afresh again to build the capacity of the new incumbents of the NPOs to be able to manage their affairs. So it's quite a challenge. But one of the other challenges as well with the capacity building of NPOs is that the incumbents in the governance structures of the NPOs are all volunteering people. They're not full-time working in the NPO. They've got other activities that they're busy with. So as a result, they don't spend all their time attending to the affairs of the NPO. So it's only now and again when they attend to the affairs of the NPO. And by the time they come back, they've even forgotten what they've been trained on. So that's one of the challenges. What we're trying to do as a department is to also build the mentorship capability within the department so that we're able to, after NPOs have been trained, we're able to provide mentorship and coaching so that they're able to translate the theory that they learn in class during training into practice. You would understand that we deal with emerging NPOs most of the time, and if you deal with emerging NPOs, inevitably the governance structures of the NPOs will be made up of people. In many cases, I'm not saying all cases, but in many cases it would be people with a limited education level. So that would compound the problem. So hence we've felt that we need to augment the classroom-based training that they get with mentorship and coaching so that they're able to be mentored, guided, coached, and handheld so that they are able to translate the theory into practice. To also touch on the issue of outsourcing of training to external service providers, the honest fact is that the department doesn't have adequate capacity to be able to provide this kind of training. It should be noted that on average per year, we train about 5,000 NPOs, funded and non-funded NPOs, and we wouldn't have the adequate capacity to do that. To avoid NPOs being trained on irrelevant programs or programs that are not aligned with what the department does, we're very specific when we send out a request for proposals so that those potential service providers understand exactly what we are looking for. And their proposals are evaluated by a panel. They are assessed in terms of their relevance to what we want, and those that meet those requirements in terms of relevance and alignment are then given an opportunity to provide the training to our funded NPOs in the main. There is indeed training that is done internally, but at a limited level, that is done internally by the department. More importantly, our finance unit is involved in training NPOs on financial management and to how to compile claims. Our legal services is also involved in training NPOs on the SLAs, the service level agreements, and the interpretation thereof. So we do, but at a limited scale, because we have the constraints in terms of capacity. But as I said, what is outsourced, it's ensured that it's aligned and it's relevant to what the department requires. On the issue of the APP being achieved, and there's overachievement in some of the indicators, yet there's under expenditure. And also, I think it's related to the question that the Honorable Chair asked as well. It should be noted, Honorable Members, that when we report on the first quarter, the APP, which the first quarter partially covers, was prepared during the lockdown restrictions. We were, if I remember well, we were at level 2 lockdown during the time of the preparation of the current APP. And we were not sure as a department, and no one was sure when the restrictions would be lifted or the behavior of the pandemic and the form and the pattern that it would take. So we planned, when we planned under the conditions during which we found ourselves, which was at level 2. So there would indeed be a slight under adjustment of the targets, because we anticipated that the country would still be in lockdown. We were not aware that in June, on the 22nd of June 2022, all the restrictions would be lifted. So the entire first quarter, except the last 8 days of the first quarter, were performed under level 1 lockdown regulations. Hence, there would be this disjuncture between achievement and the expenditure. So, because the targets had been adjusted slightly lower to accommodate the lockdown regulations, so that is why you see the achievement being slightly higher. What we are doing at the moment as we prepare for the next financial year, because the lockdown regulations have been lifted, so we are, as we plan, we are taking into account the changes in the operational environment and the fact that there are no lockdown regulations. So in a sense, we're going back to the pre-COVID-19 targets that we had because of the upliftment of the lockdown regulations. So this is a moving target which we're trying to chase. But we now more or less have a little bit of certainty because the lockdown regulations have been lifted. Now that would explain the reason why we have overachievement in some of the indicators. yet the expenditure is a bit low because of that adjustment. The other issue, in addition to that, which I would like to share with members of the Polo Committee, is that the APP for 2022-23, yes, it has 67 performance indicators. But amongst those, there are performance indicators which are quarterly indicators, and there are indicators which are annual indicators. So that is why when we report on the APP, we'll be talking about the 67 performance indicators, which are inclusive of both the quarterly indicators and annual indicators. But for the quarter that is being reported on, which is quarter one, we only had 53 indicators for that quarter. The other indicators are annual indicators, and those will be accounted for when we provide our annual report. So that explains the difference between what we are reporting now on the 53 quarterly indicators and the 67 indicators which are in the APP. The other issue which would have an impact in terms of our performance, and that was picked up as well by Auditor General, is that the level at which we are able to perform our work is also influenced by external and environmental factors. And these external environmental factors would include issues such as the hijacking, which is the uppermost in our minds and which is traumatizing our officials. And as a result, that would affect the manner in which, one, we deliver our services, two, the manner in which we try to achieve some of the targets that we want to achieve. And most importantly, that would be those targets that have to do with contacts with members of the community. So that has an effect in terms of our ability to achieve what we want to achieve. But also, as I indicated earlier, the overriding influence in our performance was the lockdown regulations, and that would be seen and adjusted as we go through the process of setting the new performance targets for the new financial year. The other questions, my colleagues are going to touch on them, but just a point to make around the issue of the increases in the cases of elder abuse. But my other colleagues would come in as well. But mainly this should be seen against the background of the increases of other social ills. It should not be seen in isolation. So we have a challenge as a country of the increases in social ills or social pathologies, and this would be seen in the increases in the incidences of elderly abuse, substance abuse, and so on and so forth, and the gender-based violence. So there needs to be more attention paid to this, and probably we would also look into a possibility of commissioning a research study into the causes of the increases in the cases of elderly abuse. There was a question by Honorable Governor on the issue of outsourcing research function. I must indicate to honorable members that not all the research function is outsourced. Some of it is done internally, but our capacity is limited because of human resources. Those research studies that are outsourced, it's those research studies that we don't have capacity to perform, whether it is the specialized nature of that research study that needs to be undertaken, or capacity because we don't have enough human resources. But when we outsource the research studies, we outsource them to accredited and recognized research institutions, including the universities and so on and so forth, so that the quality thereof is of the standards that are expected. But also we benchmark with the other research institutes like your HSRC, CSI, outsource research studies should be paid, so that we don't pay exorbitant amounts of money for such studies, so that what we pay is benchmarked rates in terms of the norms and standards applicable across the country. Thank you very much, members. Thank you, Eshoti.
Thank you. Greetings again, Honorable Chair and Honorable members and colleagues. To start with the last ones that Chair asked, the pressure in Program 1 and Program 3. Honorable Chair, you would remember that the budget cuts classification, which is compensation of employees, goods and services, transfers and subsidies, capping and other fixed charges, machinery and equipment. So COE budget cut is a pressure in Program 1, and the goods and services is a pressure in all programs when it comes to property payments, where we have cost driver, security services. Last year, security services, we spent more than 300 million. And this item this year has a budget of 181 million, which it makes it clear that we are not, if we are not assisted, we will exceed the budget. But the department is having engagements with Treasury, because they have requested that we indicate the areas where we need additional funding. We don't know whether we will be given an adequate allocation to cover the shortfall that we have. In terms of COE, we are expecting additional funding from Treasury, which will cover the cost of the non-pensionable allowance, which Treasury has not allocated to the department. We were told that by end of April or by end of March 22, the non-pensionable allowance will come to an end, but it did not stop, it continued up to now. So we are hoping we are going to get that funding. It will reduce the pressure there. In terms of ECD, why are we talking about ECD this time of during the first quarter, which we were supposed to finalize or to have had funding for it? Yes, what the department is doing now, because we did not have that allocation to cover the payments for March, because the history of this chair, honorable chair and honorable members, it was when the department was still together with USASA, and Auditor General raised a finding that resulted to a disclaimer with department, because the department was paying the NPOs in advance before the services were rendered. So as you know, that the outcome of the audit usually comes out in end of August. Each department implemented the corrective measure that were indicated by OAG that we pay after the service has been rendered. So the process started in September. I can't remember the year. But when it came to the end of the financial year, because we were still with OSASA, the grants were always paid, even if we do not have money. But if the beneficiary comes and say, I'm now 60 years old, that beneficiary qualifies for the grant. So the department could not apply for a rollover on the to cover the cost for claims damage. So that thing continued in the department, that each time when it comes to year end, we will pay the claims for March and April, until it happened now that ECD moved to Department of Education, and we didn't have the funding to cover the claims for March for ECD. But what the department is doing, we have requested the district to reprioritize, to make a provision to cover the expenditure ECD, which we incurred after ECD has moved to the Department of Education. In terms of the spending on licenses for motor vehicles, KZN motor vehicles, which we paid more or bulk of it during the first quarter. We are guided by the cash flow, which Treasury is sending us to when we start the financial year, before the financial year begins, which it is saying we must allocate 8.3% per month until the end of the financial year. So we could not, even if we want to put more in a certain month, we are unable to do so, because cash flow will not balance, because the total for the vote each month must be 8.3%. In terms of the new contracts entered into when there is no money, the department has constructed the offices to be closer to the communities for service, is to improve the service delivery. And by so doing, we are finding ourselves having this problem of the expenditure on security being increasing. So we are depending on the bailout that we might get from provincial treasury, but the department has realized this. Maybe decisions will be taken to ensure that maybe we don't expand in terms of the office accommodation, because each structure that is built need to be safeguarded. HOD responded to the private to scheme B, but the insurance part, honorable member Governor, insurance part, there is no fear on that one, because when the official buy the vehicle, when insurance is taken, or yes, when he goes for an insurance, the insurance is either you choose business or private. So it is private for officials, private insurance. Whatever happens, it's like the SMS members, because the SMS members are also using their cars. And when an accident happens, because it's a private, it's for private use, the insurance will pay the claim. So we don't have a problem on that one. In terms of the buildings and other fixed structures, where the honorable member wants the department to give time frames, we will provide the time frames of our structures under construction in the next meeting. I'm looking for other questions that might not have been responded to. There was one from Honorable Tembe, where I spoke about the underspending under subsidies to households, transfers and subsidies to households, where I indicated that we are underspending. And we said this item or category is difficult to project. I did indicate that it is easier maybe for retirements to make projections, because it is known that looking at the age of the officials in the system, you are able to estimate that those that are getting or reaching 60, it's easy for them to project that they might retire and make a provision. But what is not easy is for the deaths and resignations. Those it's not easy to project. I did mention that. I think I have covered all, Chair, unless there is one that I might have left out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mgomezulu. There's Mr. Keso. Mr. Keso is responsible for corporate services. Mr. Keso, can you come in?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, honorable members, and thank you, HOD and colleagues. I will just cover a few things. But my first point will be in terms of the question that was raised regarding the proper planning for retirement. I just want to indicate that in this financial year 2021-22, we will gonna have 118 officials that are due to retire. 118. Already 38 has retired, which leaves us with 80 officials that may retire if they like. In terms of the Public Service Act, Section 16(2)(b)(1), only requirement that in terms of the law, a person that wants to retire need just to give 3 months notice. So all these 80 that are due to retire, we are not sure whether they will retire or not retire. I just wanted to say, although the department also arrange with the GPEF, the Government Employees Pension Fund, and also the medical aid companies and others to try and have a workshop for those people that are due. But you cannot, they can just give a tentative date that they might require, but that is not sure. The other thing that we have experienced in the department, I will make one example with the risk management unit. We have lost 4 officials since January, all resigning. One was just resigned. The other one was going back. He was a Limpopo lady. He got a similar post to Limpopo, so he was going to Limpopo. And the other one, who is a deputy director, is ending tomorrow. He just resigned. So that make us not to be, although we know who gonna retire, but you are not sure when a particular person will retire until 3 months. 3 months as required by the law. Then there was a question also raised in terms of the COE pressures. I know that acting CFO has covered it, but I just wanted to indicate, to give the meat in what he have said. The non-pensionable allowance that was announced by government last year, which is close to about 1,200 extra cash for each and every employee that are at level 1 to 12, was not budgeted for. So we did not receive the money for that amount. So if you times that amount by about 3,589 officials per year, by just 1,000 rand, it goes to 3.5 million per month and are close to 43 million per year. And if you are specific, because the amounts differ from levels to levels, it goes up to more than 60 million. That's why we have pressures, because we are paying the allowance that was supposed to stop in March and has not stopped, and now is continuing. Then there is the issue of CCGs that are dying or are dying. If there are CCGs that have died, there are not many. Last year, at the end of the financial year, sorry members, which was end of March, we had 2,091 CCGs, community caregivers, 2,091 CCGs. And when we looked through them, we found out a majority of them were over the age. Some of them were 65. There was someone that was 66. So all those that have reached a pensionable age, their contract were not renewed. So it means and only 1,855 was renewed, which makes a difference of 236 CCGs less than what we had last year. So the other thing that we'll also need to remind our members, our incentive grants where the CCGs are paid has decreased. In the last financial year, it was 42.5 million, and this current financial year is 37.5 million, which means that the department will have to use some of its COE in order to be able to pay the CCGs, which is also putting additional pressures to the compensation of employees budget. I think those are the 3 issues that I wanted to cover: the number of the CCGs, the decreased number. I'm not sure about the deaths, but I know the total is now 236 less than last year. But it's mainly because those that were over 60 years, their contracts were not renewed, and also the issue of planning for retirement. I thank you, Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee and members and HOD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, honorable members. We are done from our side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, HOD. And we want to also extend our thanks to Mr. Ngomezulu as well as Dr. Xaba. You have actually answered some of the questions. In fact, most of the questions that we have asked. I think the issue of the additional funding from Treasury. As the portfolio committee on this one, we must Timberland, we must take a resolution to write as the portfolio committee to Treasury also ourselves to ask the progress with regards to the additional funding that was promised to the department, because the department as it is now, it is working under pressure. Because due to our budget cuts, and they were promised that they were going to be given additional funding by Treasury, but at the moment they are still waiting for Treasury. But as the portfolio committee, we should follow that up and get a response from Treasury. That is what I wanted to say, honourable members. Honourable members, can we move on? I'm aware that other members they are preparing to be on the road to senior citizens parliament. Can we approve first the first quarter report? If I can have someone who move for the adoption or the approval of the first quarter report and the second. Honourable members, are you still there?
Chairperson.
Honourable Charlie.
Yes, Chairperson, I move for the adoption of the first quarter report.
Honourable Charlie, move for the adoption of the and approval of the first quarter report. Is there a second?
Honourable Chair, Ngobane second, Honourable Mjali, thank you.
Honourable Ngobane is seconding. So we are approving with the resolutions that we have taken. Honourable members, can we move to expenditure to date? I don't think it is going to take a long time because it's a monthly report. Mr. Mngomezulu.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to table the report, Chair, because with your permission and honourable members, because we are still going to discuss it during the second quarter, because some of the expenditure is still being captured. This is as at the 27th of September, and the salaries of those that are paid at the end of the month have not yet gone through. So I was proposing, Chair, that we table and not discuss it because the month September has not yet ended. If we discuss it, you might record in the minutes that the department presented the report, yet there are still going to be changes, Chairperson. I was requesting that we table and not discuss it, if permissible. But I'm not running away from presenting the report, Chairperson.
We understand, Mr. Ngomezulu. Because it's not yet at the end of September, I think we agree with that one. What we want to propose is that maybe you tabled it in our next meeting. You can table this one, but the problem is how are you going to table it when you yourself you are saying that it's unfinished? You are still waiting for some of the things because it's not yet end of the month. I suggest that the department reports in our next meeting.
Thank you, Chairperson. We just brought it because the honourable members wanted to it to be submitted to the committee.
Okay.
But I agree with what the honourable chair is saying.
Yes, because we don't want to take a report that is that is not finished, because we don't want to record anything that is wrong. So we need to get a full report. Can we move? I suggest that members we move to the next item. If you agree, honourable members.
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. Can we table the report on the disability parliament? I think
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, honorable members. We will be presenting that report. There's still some work that we are doing, but we will be able to share with the honorable members the progress that has been made thus far. The presentation is going to be made by Mr. Krish Shumangam, who is the director responsible for older persons and special needs programs that include programs for persons with disabilities. Krish, can you take the honorable members through the report? Thank you.
Krish, are you here? I'm also skeptical about this report because the HOD is telling us that the report is not yet finished. I just want to get from the members whether do we continue with listening to the presentation of this report at the moment, because they say they are still working on the report. Honourable members.
Yeah, Chair, if I may come in. I don't think this report is a completed report, because if you look at the various columns, the deadline dates are not there, the responsibility is not completed. So we don't know, when these issues will be attended to and by who. And so therefore, I don't think that this is a complete report that we can accept at this meeting. Thank you, Chair.
So you move that we move this report to be tabled in the next meeting.
Chair, Honorable Tembe.
Honorable Tembe.
I support the motion. I've just asked that not the same report be tabled. At least can it just be updated with what Honorable Governor has mentioned? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we need to not to deal with this report. This report must be tabled in our next meeting. Can we move on, honourable members, to the bill? On the bill, members, we have agreed that we are going to have two teams. However, we met with the officials. We had a meeting, a visual meeting, to say we wanted to cover a lot of areas in the province, because this bill is it deals with children, and there are children everywhere that are affected, especially those the foster care who are receiving a foster care grant, as well as the orphans. But however, due to the fact that it will be difficult to have two teams, the legal advisor advised that maybe we just go as one team, so that she is going to be there, because we cannot rely from the national department. So she's going to assist us. And I'll hand over to the legal advisor to tell us about the progress with regards to the public hearings and the dates, and the dates that have been agreed on. Over to you, Daphne.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I can confirm that we have secured all the venues as we had discussed in our planning meeting with the chairperson. The first date for the hearings will be on the 11th of October at Mbazwana Multipurpose Center. We'll be covering Umkanyagude district. That will be at 10 o'clock. And the next date will be the 12th of October. This will be at Cecil Emet Hall. We'll be covering Zululand district. The next date will be the 18th of October. It will be at Osizweni Community Hall, and we'll be covering Amajuba district. The next will be the 19th of October. It will be at Umkumbane Community Hall, where we'll be covering eThekwini Metro, including Ilembe. Then on the 21st of October, we'll be at Greytown Hall, where we'll be covering Umzinyati. And then the last date will be the 25th of October. We'll be at Kokstad City Hall, where we will be covering Herigwala and the Herigwala district. So all those dates have been approved, and the adverts are ready to be sent out to all the newspapers, and also in our website we have uploaded the bill, the court order, as well as the advert for the public hearings. So from that side, all is in order, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. Can you come back to the dates that have been approved? Is the 11th of October?
The 11th of October
at Mbazwana. And then the 12th of October.
It's Cecil Emet in Vryheid. Yes, Chair. And then
we'll cluster Zululand and Vryheid.
That's correct, Chair. We have decided to cluster them and have them central in all these 6 venues.
Okay.
And then the next date will be the 18th of October. To be Osizweni Community Hall.
Yes.
And the next date will be the 19th of October.
In Umkhombane.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes.
Then the next date will be the 21st of October in Greytown Hall. Chair, the 19th and the 21st, we made them closer to Pietermaritzburg because we are having a sitting on the 20th of October.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yes. And then the last date is the 25th of October in Kokstad City Hall.
At City Hall.
That's correct, Chair. And we've said the closing date for written submissions will be the 27th of October in order to allow us to have the following date where the committee will be meeting to adopt the committee report, which will have to be in Cape Town in our select committee on the 1st of November.
Okay.
But
so when will be the meeting of the portfolio committee?
We've agreed with Noktula that it will be on the 28th of October, Chair.
Oh, okay. 28th of October, where we'll be looking at the the inputs by the public as, and also take a decision as the committee. And then the 1st of November is our first
It's the negotiating mandate.
It's the negotiating mandate, the first negotiating mandate.
Yes, Chair.
Okay. And the final mandate?
The final mandate is on, I think it's just before the 27th, because the deadline is the 27th of November.
27th of November. Oh, okay.
But I'll verify the dates, Chair.
Okay. Honorable members, are you happy with the suggestion?
Chairperson, Honorable Dembe,
Honorable Tembe?
I'm happy with it. Can we just get those dates and places emailed to us so we can just have it in writing and then we can just plan the calendar accordingly? Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chair. That will be done. We'll share the advert with the dates with all the members.
Okay. Can you also put it in our group?
Yes, Chair.
Group. Yes. Okay.
Yes, Chair. We'll do that.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So, honorable members, please try to avail yourselves. We will be moving a lot in October. Doing these public hearings, but they are necessary because we want to cover as many areas as possible so that people do not complain that we did not do the public hearings. And we are happy that the legal advisor is going to be there to assist us, honorable members. If there is no other question, I think we have come to an end. According to the agenda, what else, Daphne?
Thanks, Chair. In our meeting on the 13th of September, the chairperson had requested that I prepare the presentation on the bill, clause by clause, but that will also be done in the public hearings. In the interest of time, Chair, I'm suggesting that maybe we skip that part.
I suggest that because we'll be moving all together now. Can you just brief us as we were our first public hearing will be in Mbazwana. Can we have the briefing by you before we undertake these public hearings in Mbazwana? Is that correct? Is that in order, colleagues?
Yes, Chair.
It's supported. So you don't have to do the presentation now. Just you give us a briefing so that we are empowered about the bill. I suggest that members we go like that, and I think we are at the end of our meeting. Members, I hope that Tembelani, you have taken the things that we have resolved on. Tembelani, do you have the resolutions that we have taken in this meeting? Where's Tembelani?
Yes, Chair, second.
Okay. Members, I think we are at the end of the meeting. We know that members are traveling to Dundee for a senior citizens parliament. Please have a safe journey and be careful on the road because there are a lot of accidents, especially that are caused by trucks. Be careful, and the weather is not good. And we know that even the department, they will also be going to the Senior Citizens Parliament. I'd like to thank the department and for availing themselves to this meeting. The department that is headed by Miss Nelisiwe Vilagazi, HOD. We thank you so much, and we thank you for the presentations that you have tabled before the committee. And we hope that moving forward, and we also thank that you have actually submitted the first quarter report in time. I know that the second quarter report also is ready. If it's not ready, it is becoming ready. So please don't wait for us to ask for the second quarter. Once you are done, once you send it to Treasury, please can you also send the second quarter in time so that we do our analysis. I also want to extend my thanks also to members of the Portfolio Committee. Thank you very much, members. You always ask questions that also assist the department to look at the gaps, if there are any gaps. And I think with the department also they become happy with the engagement, because it also opens and makes the department to pull up their socks. Even the things that maybe they did not look at. The more we ask questions, it's not like we are fighting with the department, but we are looking for we want to assist the department to actually address some of the issues. So thank you for this vibrant portfolio committee and members who always ask, and it shows that we do come prepared to the portfolio committee. I also want to extend my thanks to the support staff. Thank you so much for organizing this meeting. This meeting was a fruitful meeting. This meeting is adjourned. Those who attended physically, I hope they have prepared lunch for them, good for them. And so